Welcome to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Take it from the Iron Woman. Again, we only have special guests, and today we have Gaston with us. Welcome. Introduce yourself. Who is Gaston? Who's going to join us today?
Thank you, Suzanne. Now I feel really special being the special guest. So my name is Gaston Schmitz. That first name sounds very French. My last name sounds very German, but I'm from the Netherlands originally, 100% Dutch here on the call. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of the executive coaches at the Asian Leadership Institute and spend my professional life mostly coaching senior leaders, executives, as well as founders of rapidly growing startups, as well as team coaching and facilitation. And I do all of that from a mindfulness perspective. Furthermore, I'm currently in Belgium here with my wife and two boys, 3 and 5, that always remind me that I still have a long way to go in terms of mindfulness.
And I remember we met when you were traveling and doing great work. It was in the Congo, right? And I have to say, I got the assignment, do some debrief coaching with Gaston. And then I researched you a little bit and I was like, how can I, as a coach, debrief a coach? So I thought that was an interesting assignment for me, but very good and nice to get to know you.
Yeah, what always intrigued me from even before I went studying is why do people behave the way they do? So what makes them tick? Why are some people looking at situations very differently than other people, some mindset. And so after my studies, I really got involved, first of all, in development work and looking at behavioral change programs at large scale in developing countries. So that brought me to various nonprofits, and one that took me to over 20 developing countries, including the Congo, also Papua New Guinea and the Caribbean, different places, where I always worked on how do we get large groups of people, communities, to engage in certain changes in behavior and while owning those changes in behavior. So this ranged from working on HIV and AIDS to water and sanitation, malaria, all kinds of issues. And indeed, that last project that I remember we connected with was a project where we worked with 6,000 villages in the Congo together with UNICEF and the Ministry of Health. And the goal was, how do you get 6,000 villages to adopt a few key practices around family health care that would drastically reduce child mortality? And what I realized there in all those years and still today, that behavioral change is not easy for all of us, right? And so for many years, I worked at that level in the mud, working with local people, often needing to interpret local languages. And about 8 years ago, I shifted towards joining the Asian Leadership Institute, where I still work on behavioral change and shifting patterns of behavior, but for a whole different audience. These are senior influential leaders, because these are the people that have a big impact in today's world. And my goal and our institute's goal is to make sure those decisions are made from a different level of consciousness, much more informed, much more mindful, much more compassionate, for the benefit of the entire planet. So And I'm still passionate about that. And I still use myself as a major experiment in all of that.
And I would like to add, we see it. We see your passion come through. Whenever I had the opportunity to get to a training with you, we see the passion and that you want to make sure that other people feel the same and convey the same message. So first of all, thank you. And how can you create that magic? What are the secrets that you have?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to acknowledge got a long way to go. I mean, every time that I have a slight idea that I'm pretty mindful and conscious myself, something happens that makes me realize that it's a lifelong journey. And it's really kids, right? All the parents in the call, they probably will nod right now. I mean, I thought I was pretty sorted before kids, and now I realize, but many other situations as well. So, but what I've learned really helped me in my journey, also in supporting other people in their process, is literally constantly use yourself as an experiment, both your mind, your emotional system, as well as your physical system. So traditionally, I've been really interested in extreme sports, or at least things that push the boundaries of the physical body. Now I'm speaking to the right interviewer at the moment, and I wouldn't level myself in terms of some of your achievements, but I've always been enjoying like rock climbing at fairly competitive levels, long treks. One of the best ones was with my wife. We trekked the Great Himalaya Trail for 5 months, just trekking through the Himalayas in Nepal, where if you do such endeavors, you encounter the full scope of human emotion, as well as physical pain and struggle. And you get fear and anger, frustration, annoyance, anxiety, awe, joy, exhilaration, all of that. And so my wife and I were already really into mindfulness practice before, and we simply used that 5 months as a mindfulness practice experiment on steroids. If you go in with that mindset and this idea that nothing really can go wrong depending on how you relate to it, it becomes a very powerful experience. And I would use the word spiritual experience there, because you just learn a lot about yourself. And because it's so quiet and the environment in the mountains really create the right conditions for introspection. And so I've continuously trying to figure out ways to keep myself, to push my own boundaries. I don't have the luxury anymore to go for a 5-month trek, but we did go on a long trek in New Zealand with our 6-month-old son at that time. But I've been doing some free diving. I've been doing all kinds of other sports that challenge the body and therefore the mind. And obviously just simple like meditation retreats. So I'm a big fan and practitioner of Thich Nhat Hanh school, so Zen Buddhist school in a very practical way, but also 10-day silent retreats. Everything that I can do to observe how my own mind works, how my own emotional system works. And from that place, I can relate to people in terms of my clients, right? Because I can only take my clients to a level that I've kind of experienced myself. And I also can only empathize with my clients around the feelings that I'm comfortable to have myself. Doesn't mean that I need to have mastered that, right? Let's take anxiety or insecurity. But I need to know how it feels for me to be insecure and anxious and how that manifests, so that when my client is insecure, I can relate to that. I'm not avoiding the conversation. I'm not overruling it. And I think this is the most amazing thing of our job, right, Suzanne? It's like we have to constantly improve ourselves to be the best possible coach we can be. This is not a nice to have. It's actually a requirement.
It's like walking the talk. I know I've done a few marathon races, and if people use the analogy of marathon, sometimes I ask, have you done one? And if they say no, then I'm like, So I think that's what I really like about you. You have done 5 months trekking. People think like trekking, when we were able to travel, trekking was easy, and it's kind of like we do it for 5 days and we know how it is. But you have done it for 5 months. So 5 months is not a walk in the park.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, to share a bit, because in Nepal, distance doesn't matter, right? It's only elevation. So we I got really excited because I'm kind of the data guy, right? So then I measured every day how much elevation we went up and down.
Oh,
and
cool.
so in the end, I added all those numbers up. We elevated more than 62,000 meters. And we went down also 62,000 meters.
Yeah.
It's like you would do a marathon and a half on a ladder, right? That's the elevation that we covered at the time. And it's constantly up and down. It never ends. So unless you go and resist, I mean, you can't resist because then you'll give up. So this was a very bold lesson in kind of surrendering and not letting the mind take over too much, right? So for mindfulness practice, great conditions, and obviously creates a lot of resilience and power.
What do you think was the easiest or what was the hardest for you? 5 months is a long time.
Wow, I think two things come to mind. I traditionally, I don't like really extreme weather because there's fear arising for me. So sometimes I would not sleep well if I knew there was a snowstorm coming up and the next morning I'd have to hike. And then the mind takes over, right? Anxiety, fears. And so that was hard. But probably the hardest thing was, still remember for some people on the call, they might remember the Annapurna circuit, which is kind of the most well-trodden part of our hike. But before a particular pass, there was actually a dead body on our trail of a Korean hiker that simply died maybe 30 minutes before. We later heard this person pushed himself too much, didn't want to turn back. You need to respect the mountain, right? But anyway, that was really, we were the first hikers that arrived there, and that was very impactful. I never forget that moment because it also taught me, we had four rules for those 5 months. First one was eat well. Second one was sleep well. The third one was respect your own body. And the fourth one was respect the mountain. The mountain will decide whether you'll climb it or not. I have the same with rock climbing or my other mountaineering experiences. And as long as we kept those 4 rules going, then we could go on for a long time. That was a very strong lesson. And if you don't take care of yourself and you keep pushing through just by sheer willpower, you can sometimes, go too far.
That's impactful. And nature also teaches you cannot force nature. So, I mean, I grew up in Switzerland with the mountains, and nothing compared to the Himalayas, but we always had to bring rain gear with us. They say, you never know, it might rain. So even today, I'll bring a rain jacket with me and people are laughing. I'm like, you never know. Great lessons. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How inspirational was that? 5 months in the Himalayas. I wished I could do that. Take it from the Iron Woman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. Don't miss out. Leave a comment. And don't forget to order Get Loopy. GetLoopy.com, the plant-based snack. You get 20% off of your first order. Take it from the Iron Woman.